Warning: the following program may contain material not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Find a depth unknown, our voice begins to rise, breaking through the noise with fire in its eyes. The spirit of adventure burning ever bright. Hold on tight, travelers, it's gonna be alright. Another week burning, halfway to the end. Pull us over, then we'll turn it to tears to send. Roll us over, then the rest night is here. Shatter the silence, conquer all your fear. Pull us over, got the angels gonna scream. With Diego at the wheel, living on a dream.
It's time to find out with Diego. Let's go. Ooh, yeah.
On this episode of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday, our guest is an award-winning author and illustrator whose imagination knows no bounds. Whether he's behind the pen, the microphone, or the camera, his storytelling thrives on a single compelling hook, taking ordinary characters and plunging them headfirst into extraordinary situations. Today, he's coming back full circle. He returns to the series that started it all, celebrating the launch of the all-new, fully re-illustrated anniversary editions of the beloved Chicken Boy series. All this plus more. Please welcome our good friend and award-winning author, Michael Thompson. Michael, my friend, welcome to Bonus Overdrive Wednesday.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. You are the king of intros. Me and all of my buddies, whenever we come on your show, we always feel like rock stars. You are the best at that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. And you guys are rock stars to me, man. I'm a big fan of all of you. And it's funny because you and I think we became friends. It was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a very interesting table setup. It's very fully professional. Like when I walk into a room, I can't help but already feel like I'm already in your stories. You see what I'm saying? Because everything's laid out perfectly. And I think we started talking. This is back when Winslow Hoffersleeves first came out, the first book.
That's right.
And I met you in a Bigfoot convention. And I never know how to say this town's name, so I'm always wrong. Is it Wayers or Wires Cave? I don't know.
I think it's Wayers because I want to recall that I was calling it Wires, and then when I got there, everyone else was saying Wayers. So I believe that it is Wayers Cave. But yeah, that was the Virginia Bigfoot Conference is where we first met.
Yeah, and we took a few pictures and they said, "Hey, man, come on the show." And just I'll do the show because you were covering some topics of cryptids. And I think there was another event also there where a guest, didn't show up or canceled at the last minute, and you went up there like within 5 minutes. You had a full presentation.
Oh yeah, that's right. The second time I did his conference, they had a cancellation, and they had an open slot, and they were missing one of their presenters, and so I just sort of moved in and filled that role. And I had just created that show. Actually, that was a show that I made for the Library of Congress for their paranormal forum, and it was called Sea Monsters and Storytelling. And so I had that on a stick, and I was able to sort of like jump in.
And that was the first time you just said, right?
Yeah.
Wow, man. I couldn't tell. I thought you've been doing that for a long time as far as that part of your presentation. And for the listeners of Bonus Overdrive Wednesday who have yet to meet you and definitely will, but when I talked about your table and the way you have things set up and your merchandise. So I have right here 4 collectible bookmarks, and I'm going to bring it here towards the camera.
Yes.
So, oh, yeah. And
they're all every single one
autographed and ready to go. I don't use them because I don't want to mess them up. So I have them in a nice drawer away from the sunlight.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you always every time I got one of the new collectibles, one of the numbered limited edition ones, you're always the first in line for those.
Well, which brings me to this. Well, are you gonna have one for Chicken Boy?
Ooh, Well, what I have is I actually have one here. It is special edition, so they're not limited in number, but it's special because it's in honor of the anniversary editions. And this is really cool. This is a poster with all the characters on it. And this is the Welcome to Oakwood poster. This is Oakwood is the town where all of the stories take place. It's a small town where nothing's ever quite normal. And so we have Chicken Boy and all of his villains and all of his friends. So they're kind of like posing for this group photo while the city's getting ransacked by monsters in the background. I love it. I love how this turned out. We printed it locally, actually, at the same place that makes my my bookmarks there, Piedmont Press and Graphics. So they did an amazing job printing it. Really nice, high quality stuff. I'll have those on my table.
I'll be the first in line. But you illustrate your own stuff too, right? I
do, yes. So I've been drawing longer than I've been writing, actually. Ever since I could hold a crayon, I've been drawing my stories. So when I was young, my big entertainment as a kid was getting a big ream of paper and just plop that in front of me, and then crayons and colored pencils and stuff. And then I would draw, kind of like storyboard sequence these action stories. So like one big comic panel kind of taking up the whole page. And then when I got to fourth grade is where I created Chicken Boy. My fourth grade teacher, he was the huge inspiration for me. He's kind of the reason I became an author. He was the first teacher not punished me for drawing in class, because I was always like flipping over my worksheets and drawing these epic battle sequences between superheroes and monsters. And so I was always getting in trouble for that. But when I got to fourth grade, I folded my hands. I said, I'm not going to draw. And then my teacher, Mr. A, he said, all right, our first assignment is we're going to create a comic book. And I was like, what? I get to do this? So that was where my creativity really just flourished. And I filled up my writing notebook with so many stories and characters that to this day, from that class, I'm adapting into books and stuff now. And that's where Chicken Boy came from. I loved animals and superheroes, and I wanted to make my own animal superhero. And so I created Chicken Boy, who got his powers from eating radioactive bird seed, and he became the greatest superhero to ever be hatched.
Wild bird seed.
That's right. Radioactive. Yeah.
No, that's awesome, because you kind of answered it, because I was going to say, back when I was growing up, we had different kinds of kids. Some of them were a little more degenerate. They would draw on the desk themselves. Some of them would do it all on a pad, but we'd all get in trouble. But you kind of just answered that. You didn't really get in trouble because they knew you. That's what you did. And it gave birth to something that so many years later has come back.
Mm-hmm. So
the question is, why now? Why did Chicken Boy come back to life?
Great question. So Chicken Boy has been around now for almost 20 years. And that's what we're celebrating, is the 20-year anniversary of Chicken Boy. He's kind of like the mascot for my entire author journey. He's what started everything. And it's very special to me. When I first released the books, they were big magazine-sized books. And like I was talking about with the printer paper, when I was a kid, that's how I would do it. And when I started adding words to the pictures I would draw, I'd just print it out and then draw right on the paper there, scan it in, and that was how I did it. And nowadays, I have a touch sensitive monitor over to my left here, and I draw directly into the computer. So it's still hand drawn, but it's with a stylus and a touch sensitive monitor, and it goes right in, which is incredible for a lot of reasons. So not the least of which is that when you're drawing with graphite, the pencil's breaking and spraying this dust over the page. So when you scan it in, you have all these like little dots. And so there was a digital aspect to the beginning of the process where I would be zooming in Microsoft Paint and like erasing all the little dots of what's called tone, and before making that the final picture and design. And so I shrinking down Chicken Boy to this size here. This is the industry standard size. And let me see if I can find, here we go. So this is a book 3 copy that I have up here. So the first 3 books in the Chicken Boy series looked like this. They were big magazines basically, because I just did them on printer paper, and that's how I did them. And when I submit it to the printer and everything, that's how they turned out. So this is the Fight of the Ferocious Flowers. That's the third book in the series. And now I have an industry standard size, but when you shrink them down, you have to re-illustrate everything. One, I get to re-illustrate everything because I'm better now, and I've been doing it for 20 years. And so it's a cool opportunity to bring Chicken Boy up to the quality of all my current creations. But also it was necessary because when you shrink the page, everything has to change. New pictures have to be created. And I'll show you one of my, since we have the video, I can show you some of my favorite pictures in the books. We have this one moment in the first book where the class pet Iggy gets transformed into a big monster. He's an iguana, and so here he is after he's been transformed by the menacing villain Dr. Dimwad, who's getting away there. And all the books look like this now, and they're all beautiful. So here's book 2, and here's book 3 right here as well. So you can see, here's a good example. You can see book 3 side by side with the original.
Wow.
Pretty neat, huh?
Oh, very neat. And as you're talking about the drawing part of it, where did you learn this in school, or are you self-taught?
I'm entirely self-taught. When I did go to college, I took a couple of like elective classes where I learned how to use certain Adobe programs. And so that wasn't what my major was in, but it was applicable to both my major and what I was planning to do with my books. So I get to learn how to use different Adobe programs like Illustrator. But mostly what I use is Photoshop, and I just draw directly into it, and I just use it as a digital drawing program.
Well, speaking of that, and I'm going to show my age here, my friend, because I can understand drawing, doodling, doing art on a canvas, on a piece of paper. When I sign my name on any digital or on a tablet or anything, it is a complete mess.
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine drawing on a tablet or anything electronic. How did you shift? Was there a shift from paper into a tablet? How different is that?
Everything's a little bit different. I shifted from paper to, when I did the first Winslow Hoffner book, I was drawing on, and I guess also when I did a World of the Orb, when I did that cover, I was drawing on, it didn't have a screen on it. It was kind of like a mouse pad, and the stylus was like the mouse. And this is a whole different muscle because I'm like looking at the monitor and I'm drawing down here. And then when it came time to do Chicken Boy 4, and this was when I returned to the Chicken Boy series before the anniversary editions, Chicken Boy 4 came out. And when I started trying to draw Chicken Boy 4 the way that I drew the Winslow Hoffner series, it was actually very difficult because Winslow is very painterly and has like layers and layers and layers of art on it. Chicken Boy is just line work and some selective shading. And so there's kind of, you could say, like nowhere to hide, where it's like, it's 2 layers. It's just really, you need really, really clean lines. And I could not get precise enough with the stylus and pad that I was using then. So then I started shopping for some newer technology, and because I use a program that's like from I think 2006 to draw into, and the bamboo board, that's what I was drawing on originally. That was around the same time. I think that was when it came out. It was called Photoshop Elements 6, and I don't remember what year it came out. I want to say it's the early 2000s. And then so that was not sensitive enough, so I had to like find what the newer technology was and get that. And so that's kind of my pattern, is I use stuff until the wheels fall off. Like I get comfortable with a certain program, and then I just interface, and I just go with it until the book or project that I need it to work for no longer until it doesn't work anymore, and then I'm forced to upgrade. So yeah.
Well, and everything's newly re-illustrated. So because you went back and looked at your old drawings, And you have to get in the mind of your time during elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take your time machine and go back. Now, talking about that, what was the process like? Now you not only revisited the stories, but you're also touched up on the illustrations parts of it. What prompted you to go back and revisit this series anyway? Was it a mix of feel a little bit nostalgic, or was it your fans that knew about Chicken Boy that wanted you to bring it back to life for today's audience?
Yeah, Chicken Boy has had one of my most enduring readerships. It's been around for 20 years, and something that's really cool that's happening this week is I'm going to be doing a guest author appearance at a local school. And at that school, it's not the school that I went to, but it's the school that my former fourth grade teacher currently teaches at, and it's in his class that I created Chicken Boy. A friend of mine from high school, her daughter is in his class and is a Chicken Boy fan. And so there's this multi-generational love for the character that is like it very moving to me. And so it's really, really cool. And I think it was and it just felt right. So when I did release it, I was having a lot of people when they came up to my table, very excited, recognizing the characters and having the whole set, buying the set all over again, or buying it for younger members of their family, or in this case, their children. It's really, really cool. Chicken Boy is a very special character to me, and I'm really happy that he is taking this form. I feel like it's the version of Chicken Boy that he was always meant to be. You know what I mean?
And it took him a little bit to evolve, and
Mhm.
then here we are in 2026.
Yeah.
Now that we have Chicken Boy, everybody loves Chicken Boy. Even the name puts smiles on people's faces, because it did for me as well.
Mhm.
Who else is in the Chicken Boy universe? Who's the main bad guy? Who are his friends? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Right. Well, Chicken Boy is the story of a chicken who eats radioactive birdseed and becomes a superhero. And then his best friends are Matt and John, and they help him save the world. Professor Big Nose is one of the earliest characters I ever created, and he is the impetus for the creation of Chicken Boy. He's the funny scientist that feeds Chicken Boy the birdseed. He's always doing these different science experiments to try to prove to himself that he's a great scientist, but he's kind of the joke is that a lot of the science experiments that he does sort of cause the calamitous reactions that domino into different monsters sort of ransacking the city, and Chicken Boy has to go and save the day. So each book explores a different sort of villainous archetype. So we've got the mad scientist in the first book. We've got Dr. Dimwad as this guy up here with the laser beam. And so he's like kind of like your classic mad scientist. We have the kind of like giant monsters taking over the city with the doggy doo-doo demons. And this is everyone's favorite book. This is the one that all the kids are always giggling about. And then the third book is kind of like a survival story, kind of like a zombie survival story, but with plants. And so we've got the fight of the ferocious flowers. And so we've got these cool monster plants that when they eat people, they turn them into these plant drones. And so they end up joining the army. And so, and in every book, Chicken Boy and his friends, they try to figure out the weakness of the villains and then go about saving the day. And it's just jam-packed with action and laughs. And it's really, really fun for all ages, especially like 8 to 12.
And that's one of the things I want to talk about. It's not just kids laughing about the doo-doo monster, because I saw it earlier today. I was like, oh, I'm going to get through this. If I mention it, I'm just going to laugh for 5 minutes straight.
Mm-hmm.
But you build a universe with a chicken superhero and its various bad guys. And as we know, sometimes comic books, they're depending on who you read, they can be very adult or a little bit crude and some, but you manage to take a concept and keep it entertaining and innocent at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in today's time, and people they're interested in this. So you've done an amazing job. How so if looking back growing up, because I know you mentioned your teacher back in school, but what were you reading at the time? What comic books, what movies were you watching that maybe gave Chicken Boy a little bit of life?
Right. So Chicken Boy is kind of like a combo of like Looney Tunes and like the Marvel superheroes. Like I loved Looney Tunes. I loved Tom and Jerry. That sort of expressive uh, slapstick humor that was in those programs. I love those. And then I really really liked Marvel superheroes, especially Spider-Man. The radioactive birdseed in Chicken Boy comes from the radioactive spider bite in Spider-Man. It's an homage to Spider-Man, and there's a lot of different parodies about different superheroes and also other pop culture things as well. The back of Chicken Boy one says it's a bird, it's a plane. No, wait, it's a bird. So there's like all these like sort of allusions to real world superheroes and stuff, and Chicken Boy's sort of having fun with that while also being wholly original himself.
And now with the artwork, similar question as I asked you, what kind of artist did you really look up to when you were young? Even now as an adult, is there something that really strikes you?
Bill Watterson with the Calvin and Hobbes series was one of my favorite cartoonists. I read every single Calvin and Hobbes collection. I've got every single one, every comic strip. And as I was learning to draw cartoons, I would look at how he would do certain things, like how he would simplify complex expressions into simple shapes and stuff. And like I remember when I was drawing frowns and it was just like, sort of just a slanty line and then the under part of the eye. I was like, this particular frown doesn't feel mean enough. How does Watterson do it? And I went into Calvin and Hobbes and I was like, oh, he's got this it's more of like this little S shape. And then it sort of folds over and then you draw the brow around that. And I was like, okay. And so that's how I was like actively like learning on the fly as I was drawing it. And that was really cool. And then also like the big eyes in Chicken Boy, I always mention, different sort of cartoons in the paper, like Garfield, like these big old expressive eyes that all my characters have. I liked the expressive capability of having these big eyes, and that's kind of the staple of my cartooning style. They all have these big eyes that go up past their foreheads, so you get a lot of expressive capability in the eyes.
So now we talked about the artwork. We also talked about the storyline and the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about background music to your universe, because you're talking about Looney Tunes. We talk about cartoons back then when they used a lot of classical music or when they used a lot of fun sound effects. If you were to put a music bed behind your storylines, what would you think of?
I think probably Chicken Boy would be a little bit rock and roll, but like with those classic superhero trumpets and stuff. I would love one day to make a Chicken Boy theme song. That is something that is on my radar and I'm looking into. But yeah, it feels pretty rock and roll. Lots of electric guitar, I think. Chicken Boy is a very action-packed series.
I can tell from the covers because it kind of, you put the tall buildings and you put the monsters in there. It gives me kind of like the old Power Rangers or Godzilla where they're just tearing up the town.
Yep.
And I'm definitely going to pick up all 3 copies of that. And I know you because you're always up to something. Whether you're doing the voice to your own characters, you're drawing, film, writing, of course. And I always hate to ask this because, somebody just dropped a book and I'm asking them, so what are you going to do next? Well, does it have to be a next? That ink is not even dry, but I'm going to ask you, what do you got going on next?
Excellent question. I've got a lot going on next. The first order of business writing wise is the 3rd book in the Winslow Hoffner series. So I think reliably that's what you can expect to be published next. Hopefully this year, it'll be the 3rd book in the Winslow Hoffner series. And that is my favorite book in the series so far. I think it's going to blow a lot of people away who have been reading these characters. I think a lot of people who have read both books, they've come up to me and saying, "Oh, I hope this storyline continues. I hope we see more of these characters, and I hope we find out more about this." And I think you're all going to be very satisfied and more when book 3 and Winslow Hoffner comes out. There's going to be more books beyond that as well, but that's what's up next for publishing. And then I've been doing more collaborative projects lately, actually. So I just one of my good author friends, Brian Grover, who's been on your show, he just released The Otter King, the Search for the Dobarku, for all of your fans of cryptozoology. That's a very cool Irish cryptid, an Irish waterhound. It's kind of like a wolf-sized otter. And that's one that actually made an appearance in my book, in the second Winslow Hoffner book, Winslow Hoffner's High Sailing Adventures. You can see him on the cover there. And I did the foreword for that book, and I also drew the Otter King on the cover. And so that was really fun. So that was the first time I did a foreword for any book ever. And then upcoming, I'm doing some voice acting work in my friend's project, who I believe you know, Kevin Sapiel Jr. From Where the Weird Ones Are. He's doing his first feature-length film. It's a found footage horror film, and I'm gonna be a voice of a character in that film. So check out that. The title's been released. It's called The Secrets of Densmore Manor.
You know, you never cease to amaze me how busy you are and where you have your footprints are everywhere. Now, in the spirit of talking about voiceover work, have you developed a character voice for Chicken Boy yet?
That is a great question. I think whenever anyone reads Chicken Boy, they just kind of imagine their own voice in Chicken Boy. I don't think I imagine him having like a deep stentorian type of, classic superhero voice. I think he's more quippy. So he's probably more like a Peter Parker, more Spider-Man, because he always has something to say. He's always like cracking jokes when he's beating up the bad guys and saving the day. So I think it'd be a little bit more loose and conversational with Chicken Boy. But yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool to maybe see a Chicken Boy cartoon someday.
I already kind of know it's going to happen.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll wait. You wait. I don't want to put any stress on you. But yeah, I know what's going to happen now.
All right.
For our friends, the listeners, they want to learn more about you, Chicken Boy, Winslow Hoffner series. Where are you going to be? Where can they go find out?
You can find out on my website, michaelthompsonbooks.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Michael Thompson Books, on YouTube at Michael Thompson Books, and Twitter at mthompson books. For in-person events, the next big ones I got coming up, most of them are local, but I am doing a Comic-Con in Manassas, Virginia, called Big Lick Comic-Con Nova. And that's a great one. That's going to be at the Manassas Mall. That one is always a ton of fun, and they just recently moved it to the mall. And so it's going to be cool to see how that goes. But it's really a really fun, classic Comic-Con feeling. I love that one so much. That's kind of like my home convention. That's going to come up at the end of May. And I'm going to be sponsoring the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree in Ohio. So for anyone up there, my good friends Justin and Jay at the Cryptids of the Corn podcast are putting on their annual Bigfoot Jamboree. And I know a lot of people come in from out of state for that one. So I'm going to be sponsoring that, and I'm going to have a big table there. And I'm going to have all my books, Chicken Boy, World of the Orb, the Winslow Hoffner series, and a whole bunch of other cool collectible stuff as well there. You can see all of my events on michaelthompsonbooks.com as soon as they're posted. And yeah, lots of fun stuff on the way.
Yeah, and it's only May. I know we got the rest of 2026 to go, but as always, I love having you on the show. I know you were on Let's Find Out a few times, and now on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. And since I know for sure, because I could tell by the look on your face that you'll probably be announcing something later on this year, let's get you back on the show. Let's talk about it, and let's see what else Chicken Boy's up to, my friend.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Thank you, my friend.
All content on this broadcast is a property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Bonus Overdrive Wednesday. The information shared on Bonus Overdrive Wednesday is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.